Hi friend, David here from Learn Christmas Lighting. So glad because in this video we're going to talk about should I choose xLights, LOR, or Vixen, not in that order. And so I wanted to make this video because it's a question I see a fair amount, especially between, for people who are new to the hobby, between xLights and Vixen. Personally, I started as a Vixen user because the first year I went to do a display, I downloaded the xLights, I tried to figure it out, and I was confused as all get up. I was able to figure out Vixen, used it for my first year. Then I went to xLights, and once I learned it, I realized its value, especially in a more complex display. But that doesn't mean there aren't some things about Vixen that I actually like better. Shh, don't tell anybody. And so what I want to do in this video is just literally right here on my monitor with my webcam, go ahead and look at these three pieces of software and help you determine what's right for you. And so what we have first here, guys, is xLights. I've launched it here, and the basic gist of it, this is kind of like a good old review of the three. You've got the basic controller setup, then you've got the layout. This is your house, your model basically, and all of your props, which are called models in here. And then we have the sequencer, where if we open something up, we get all sorts of effects built in. We've got the effects up here, the jukebox here. I don't even really know what that is. The colors, layer blending, layer settings, house preview, etc., etc. There's a lot going on here. And this is the thing when I first started that really turned me off to xLights is I looked first at this controllers and I said, I don't really understand what this is. And keep in mind, I've been a lighting designer for 10 years in stage lighting, and I've worked in the stage lighting world with pixels, with ArtNet, with E131 or SACN. I've worked with this over years. And so I know how to make this stuff work, but I really had trouble with this at first. I'm understanding basically channels and how that all works. Then, we've got the layout, and then we've got the sequencer. And so the other thing I didn't like about this that I like more about Vixen is that when you launch it, you really only launch one of these windows at a time. So once your layout's set, you don't have to go back into that editor. You can't mess it up unless you really try hard. And then once you get your controller set up, same thing. You close that window out. You don't ever open it again unless you need to make a change. And so you won't accidentally mess something up. Now, let's talk about sequencing. When it comes to the effects available in xLights versus Vixen, I would say, there's a lot of the same stuff. They're not super different, okay? They're just not. There are definitely things that are different and you can get complex, but my one thing that I like to kind of harp on when I'm thinking about which software to choose and what I like to point people to is, okay, think about the people watching your display. I mean, yes, we do this for our own enjoyment, right? But we also need to think about the people who are actually watching our display. I'm actually just going to turn down the volume all the way, so excuse that pop-up. And when they see this happening on our house, do they go, oh man, that's such a Vixen effect. You couldn't do that or you could do that, or rather, that's such an xLights effect. You couldn't do that in Vixen. No, nobody says that. And if they do, it's one person out of many who see your display. Now, things I do like about xLights. The color palettes up here are really easy to use. Okay, that's great. Now that there's the transitions here as well in layer blending, the fade in and the fade out. I love that as well. I know there's other things besides fades, but most of the time I use the fades. Love those transitions. But what I don't like about xLights, I love the way the audio's up here. I love how easy it is to slow down the audio. What I don't love about it is how small all these windows are, especially on a smaller display. My first year I did my display on a 13-inch laptop. Here I've got, of course, a 24-inch monitor and a 22 over here. So it's like I'm not hurting for space there. But if you are hurting for space, all of these different windows in xLights get super duper duper tiny. And you try to dock them or put them in different places, or maybe you pop some of them out and resize them. And it just becomes really difficult, in my opinion, to see what is actually going on. Okay. And so those are some of my thoughts there about what I don't love about xLights. But overall, I think especially if you're going to spend a lot of time doing your own sequences or importing other people's, and you want to get pretty complex looking stuff, it's probably worth the time to learn xLights. But Vixen, I think a lot of people write off Vixen as if it has no place in the world today. And I would say that that's not the case. So let's go over to Vixen. I'm just going to close xLights here. Oops, if I could spell, then it will open. And once it opens, we'll go ahead and what I like about Vixen is something that I see a lot, right? Because I teach lighting control in the stage lighting world too. And what the thing about xLights too is that there's so much complexity, so many things you can do, so many features that sometimes people really get bogged down in that stuff, really get bogged down into, oh, what's this button do? What's that button do? When you may not need that button or that feature to make your show happen. One thing I forgot to note in xLights, the biggest plus is the controller upload if you have a Falcon controller or one of the other ones that are built into there. Being able to set your thing up, in xLights and just upload that to the controller is like, second to none. But if you don't make a lot of changes to your display, then it's a one-time setup inside your controller. Maybe it takes you an hour the first time as you're learning how to do it. But then you never do it again, or you just tweak it a little year after year. And so that's why that's like a minor thing. It's great. It's cool. It's fun, especially if you're like me, you set up pixels in your office all the time and test different things and different setups. But if you're not making a lot of changes to your display year over year, that's kind of like not that exciting. So Vixen. What I like about Vixen, again, is that the display setup, this is the controllers basically, is a window you have to pop up totally separate. Same with the previews. I'll just open this one up. This is actually something I'm using in the Learn Christmas Lighting Academy of this generic house. And I really like how the preview works in the sense that it's really easy to see all these different objects. It's really clear. It's really easy to see what are patched and what are not to an actual element. Now that part's a little fuzzy to me, but we figure it out. But overall, I like the friendliness of this. I like how simple it is to just see how everything works and to be able to work with the various elements of your show here. And so I love that. But what I really like most is that when you close it, you're not going to accidentally get into this window and mess up your preview, okay, which is how they, map the things to your house. Then we've got our sequences. Ooh, I don't think I have any sequences on this computer, actually. But the sequence editor, man, so simple. Here's what I like about it. Brings in all your stuff automatically. You've got the basic and the pixel. The basic stuff can work with pixels, of course. It's just simpler. And man, you just drag in these different effects. I like how well this visualizes as you drag it. I also like how super quick it is. You can see here already. I mean, compare this to xLights. There are so many less things here. And I think for a lot of people, that's really good. It's just so simple to put in a new color here. Literally just grab a new color, change it up. Boom, it changes the look of the effect. Same with the brightness curve. Instead of having the fade in and fade out in xLights, which is great, you could just pop this up and literally draw a curve. And this is like the in and out. And then I can go ahead and just move these around. And now it fades in and fades out. Done. I usually probably wouldn't draw it quite like that because that's a huge mess. But there's the curves you can load. You can make your own curves, etc. Super easy to make those fade ins and fade outs. One downside, of course, is we can't stack multiple effects unless they've added it. I don't think they have. See, they did add it. You can stack multiple effects. So that's not an upside anymore to xLights over Vixen. But I mean, seriously, it just looks so good. You can turn the effect preview on or off. It's just, in my mind, it's super easy. It works well. There is a limit to what you can do. And sometimes, especially if you're getting into the layer blending at xLights and doing all kinds of different things, then yeah, Vixen can't do that. But I think, and this is some of the stigma that I'm trying to change in the Christmas lighting industry, that a lot of people think, oh, xLights is the best, I should just go with xLights. And it might be worth checking out Vixen and really spending a little time to get to know it. There's less info on it out there, sure, less tutorials, but I've got some here. We'll click to them here. But I think it's worth looking at. So, light-o-rama. Should you use light-o-rama? So you download light-o-rama, you install it. Gosh, I don't even know how to find the thing. I think it's control panel. Nope, that's not the right one. Or Showtime. Sequence. Light-o-rama sequencer. I'm just using the demo because I don't own it. And, you know, light-o-rama looks like it's about 10 years old. Sorry, guys. And I tried to figure it out multiple times with the demo. Never really have been super successful. You know, they've got things here. And, you know, light-o-rama works off of these different channels. I think you can do pixels. But at the end of the day, it's just, you know, considering how good the free programs are, Vixen and xLights, I don't really see a need to recommend light-o-rama. So where does that bring us in choosing? Hopefully, after watching this video, you have at least a little bit of an idea. Sorry, the sun's really coming in there. You have at least a little bit of an idea of which program would be best for you. And, you know, if you want to dive in deeper, this is something we talk about with people inside the Academy, Learn Christmas Lighting Academy. I'll have a link to the waitlist below. But other than that, you know, feel free to comment. Check them both out. That's my biggest thing, is watch my tutorials. We'll have those linked both for xLights and Vixen below. And, you know, just try them out. Because I think you might be surprised, especially with Vixen. For a lot of people, especially if you just want to do a simpler display, you want to create your own sequences because there aren't as many for sale out there for Vixen, you know, it could be a really good pick for you. Else, use xLights. It's got a great set of tools. Once you get used to it, you can work quick in it. But on a smaller monitor, especially, it's really tough to work in it. And so those are my thoughts, guys. Of course, my opinions, you know, but I like them both. I really do. I use both programs and I teach them both. And I'm glad you're here. If you're not subscribed, be sure to do so. And we'll see you on our next video.